Hello, my name is Dr. Sandhya Raman and today we're going to be talking about stress. In this video we're going to cover 1. What is the purpose of stress? 2. What is the difference between good and bad stress? 3. What happens to our brains and bodies when we experience stress? And 4. Some tips to help you improve the way that you manage your stress. No doubt, we have all experienced the sensation of feeling stressed. Our hearts race, we may feel nauseous or distressed, and perhaps feel a general sense of overwhelm. Our stress response is a survival mechanism. It is designed to heighten our energy and focus to deal with an emergency situation. In terms of our physiological reaction, there are 3 phases to this response. Each phase is primarily governed by a different neurochemical. Phase 1 is incredibly rapid. When we perceive a threat, nerve signals from our brain reach our adrenal glands, which sit just above our kidneys, and these then release adrenaline into our bloodstream. Adrenaline prepares us to heighten our focus and to either fight or to run. Our pupils dilate to allow us to flood our retinas with more input from the outside world. Our breathing becomes faster to supply us with more oxygen. Our heart rate and blood pressure increase in readiness for a greater oxygen demand from our muscles. Our muscles tense in readiness for strength and speed. We increase our blood clotting function in readiness for potential injury. We mobilize sugars and fats into the bloodstream to be used as energy. We redivert our blood supply away from processes that the body considers non-essential in an emergency, like digesting food, and it redirects it towards our muscles in case these are needed to be used rapidly and imminently. This phase is so rapid, it may enable us to act instinctively to avoid danger, such as jump out of the path of a vehicle before our visual centers have even fully processed it. Once this burst of adrenaline starts to fall, phase 2 of our stress response kicks in. This phase is governed by the hormone cortisol. In this phase, we remain in a state of high alert. Since most organs and tissues in the body have receptors for cortisol, cortisol affects a huge number of systems. Cortisol is keeping us ready to fight or run, so it keeps energy at the ready in our bloodstream in the form of sugars and fats. It keeps our blood pressure up, and it keeps us awake. The final phase of the stress response is a fall in adrenaline and cortisol, and the rush of relief and relaxation once the emergency is over. This is governed by a set of nerves that release a chemical called acetylcholine. This causes a relaxation of our blood vessels, lowers our heart rate, allows us to focus again on digesting food and other non-emergency functions, and to relax our muscles. What is the difference between good and bad stress? The stress response was designed to be used short-term to respond to a life-threatening emergency. Our caveman ancestors would have experienced stress, such as if they crossed the path of a saber-toothed tiger. Once the threat had passed, this system would be switched off. Stress has an essential function of ensuring our survival through optimizing us physically and mentally to deal with life-threatening situations. So stress is good for us in these short bursts of minutes to hours and where we have the chance to return to a non-stressed state. In this context, we challenge ourselves and build resilience. Short-term stress can improve memory and focus, and it can prime our immune system to keep us healthier. But what happens if we don't allow that third phase to kick in? Suppose we remain stuck in those first 2 high alert phases, so that instead of stress lasting minutes to hours, it lasts hours to days, or even weeks or longer. We are no longer using the stress response to deal with short-term, life-threatening situations. Unfortunately, this situation, commonly known as chronic stress, has become more and more common in our modern lives. Instead, we are finding it hard to switch off mentally from our work and other life stressors, and our bodies can't really differentiate between a real life-threatening emergency situation and one that's happening in our thoughts. And so we remain stuck in those first 2 phases, and over a period of time, this wreaks havoc on various systems in our body. What happens to our bodies and brains when we feel chronically stressed? If we release excess adrenaline and cortisol over a long period of time, it affects a number of our systems. In terms of our heart and blood vessels, it raises our blood pressure, which over time damages the muscles surrounding these, as well as the cells lining them, so we are more likely to lay down damaging fat in our arteries. Both adrenaline and cortisol release energy into our bloodstream, so we have higher blood sugar and cholesterol levels. Additionally, these increase the level of inflammatory signals in our bloodstream. All of these factors together also drive up damage to our blood vessels, increasing fatty deposits, as well as driving up our risk of a host of other chronic health problems. Stress also makes us more likely to practice unhealthy behaviors such as smoking or comfort eating unhealthy foods, which in turn can affect our health over time. Cortisol in particular makes us more hungry and likely to store fat, so we are more likely to gain weight when we are chronically stressed. Beyond the effect on our metabolism, heart and blood vessels, chronic stress remodels our brain, so we find it harder to deal appropriately with stress. It suppresses our immune system, so we are more susceptible to infections. It interferes with sleep, and it reduces fertility in both men and women. What can we do to manage our stress? Tackling stress is important not just for our health, but for our whole quality of life. You can gain personalized techniques with coaching if this is a particular issue for you, but there are some generalized techniques that will work for pretty much everybody because they leverage different mechanisms that our body naturally uses to deal with stress. There is no doubt that we all experience stressful situations. Cultivating a mental line in the sand that separates our outer world from our inner world can take some practice, but it is a skill that we can all learn. There are also some general principles that apply to everyone because they utilize our body's natural mechanisms to reduce tension and aid relaxation. 1. Slow, deep breathing. When we deepen our breathing, we effectively stimulate our vagus nerve, which plays a role in slowing our heart rate, reducing blood pressure, and improving digestion, amongst other functions. Breathing deeply, such that our abdomen expands, and slowly, in particular prolonging the phase of breathing out, helps to stimulate the vagus nerve to create a physiological state of calm. 2. Mental body scan. This can be combined with deep breathing. Here, you mentally travel slowly from your toes to the top of your head, paying attention to each muscle as you think of it. By bringing awareness to your physical sensations, you can relax each muscle in turn. Don't forget to pay attention to your jaw and facial muscles. 3. Meditation. If we practice deep breathing and body awareness, the next step may well be to cultivate a meditation practice. Practicing meditation teaches us to achieve brain states that are both calm yet creative. Beyond this, there is some interesting early research suggesting that meditation can reduce inflammation, improve immune function, as well as slow biological aging. 4. Exercise. Exercise releases endorphins, which naturally help to relieve stress. Endorphins are our body's natural pain relievers, mood boosters, and stress relievers. They have morphine-like properties and affect both our physical and our mental well-being. 5. Humor. Another endorphin-releasing activity is laughter. Instead of scrolling through the news or social media, take a laughter break, watch a light-hearted comedy, or listen to a funny podcast. 6. Gratitude. Finally, we can train ourselves to see the positive side of life. Often, we are hardwired to see dangers and prepare for them, but in modern life, we are often mentally preparing for threats which never happen. Instead, we can retrain our brains to notice the positive. One way to do this is to write a gratitude journal. Write 3 things each evening before bed that you are grateful for. This forces us to pay attention to the positive. we start to perceive greater abundance and ease in our situations and connect with more positive emotions. Not only does this improve our sense of well-being, it helps us to deal with life situations with greater ease and a sense of expansiveness. Whilst we may not feel like practicing these techniques when we're in the midst of a stressful situation, it can often feel far more attractive, for example, to eat junk food and scroll on our phones. But you can start with something very simple and very small. For example, taking a few deep breaths. At first, you may not feel you have the time or the inclination to do this when you're feeling stressed, but really you are investing in your own mental and physical health, and we all could probably find just a couple of minutes in our day to invest in this. Once you know that you are allocating a really short and defined period of time to this exercise, it can really feel achievable. Then once you experience how effective this can be, you can start to grow this practice so that you can regain your sense of ease and control at will.